Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. It is Monday, June 7th, 10 a.m. Central, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And today, we're going to wish a happy birthday to Tom Tullis. I know it was a few days ago, the 3rd, actually, to be precise, but we didn't do a show since last week, so we have to do the wishing today. And we're wishing him happy birthday as he even does what he likes to do around his birthday and take Fat Dragon Games items and put it on sale 50% off on a lot of the terrain and minis, and we will take a look at some of that stuff even as we talk about Tom as a fun guy. I get to see Tom, well, last couple of years I have not gotten to see Tom at Gary Con. I'll be looking forward to seeing him next Gary Con. Luke willing and the creek don't rise. We'll see if we all make it till then. Hopefully we do. I know a lot of people lost a year or 13 months of their lives basically hunkered down or being curtailed from a normal life, even if they were on the front lines working. What you could do beyond that was minimal, and it's fair to say that with GaryCon being at the front end and the tail end of the pandemic, that folks who missed GaryCon missed a couple of them, and that's not the worst thing in the world, but it's still sad. And coupled with that, not getting to game with Tom Tullis was part of what I missed from it. So a lot of other people as well, but talking about Tom today, so it's Tom Day. You know what we should do is we should actually take a look at some of the cool stuff that Tom has for sale and is on sale. Just look at his regular website. I mean, we'll get over to Drive Through RPG in just a little bit, but first, let's look at his website for Fat Dragon Games, fatdragongames.com. It goes toward the 3D printable terrain and the files. As you know, Dragonshire has all sorts of cool models for making medieval fantasy game stuff, but he also has some other nifty stuff as well. He certainly does not skimp on the painting tutorials and information shared and how to make your game tables look a lot better and wind up fantastic. He's got a notice on the upper right. There's a free sample set for making his dungeons. But of course he's got those buildings too. So you could build a small town, you could put a dungeon underneath it. He's got some sci-fi stuff, and he's got some miniatures, which are all pretty cool too. Let's see what we got here. There's a World War Tesla model, one of his nifty games that includes 3D printed models. And then they're back around the horn to the Dragonshire thatched tall roofs and short roofs for the different buildings. If you scroll down, you'll see there's a whole area with videos down the middle right, latest releases middle left, and of course straight up news on the far left, which will fill you in on all sorts of things. But right up top you'll see 3D printed terrain, different categories, the free dungeon sample set, Dragonlock Dragonshire Fantasy Village, Vallis Mortis, We'll take a closer look at that. We've got the Dragon Lock miniatures, the dungeons, the outdoor terrain, sci-fi, general stuff that doesn't fit in other categories, and the older legacy set villages. Let's take a look at miniatures first. Here we go. A lot of your turtle. So some of these are unusual, but there are, of course, some great regular standard sort of miniatures. You've got 3 different sets of skeletons, all useful giant spiders. You've got lizard folk sets, goblin warriors, the oxidation beast, the angry ball of eyes. These are popular knockoffs of classic creatures. Orc warriors, trash beast, tentacle monster, great dragon, miniature holder. You can print out a holder for when you're painting miniatures that clamps onto the base so you can spin it around without touching the models. The Cubus Knot, more Orc Warriors. Snake Warriors, Giant Spider and Swarm. Minotaur Warrior, the classic Owlbear. And as you can see, it just goes on and on. Adventurers and Villagers, Dracolich, Undead Gorillas, Kobold Warriors, Hill Giants, Minotaurs, Octopus, Giant Slug, Giant Rats and Swarms, Dragon Eggs, Mushroom Folk, Ogre Warband, that's very useful. You got a Roper, Giant Worms, more Goblins, more Skeletons. You just got all sorts of miniatures, and I'm sure he'll make even more. I want to take a quick look at the dungeons, although that might be futile since there's so much dungeon material. But you've got cavern sets, regular hallways, archways, curved. You've got some pieces, items, as it were, to set inside. You've got a dungeon starter set, which is excellent for when you're just getting started, of course. Dungeon items like crypts and fountains and hazards and traps, cages, sewer openings, trapdoors, wheels, right, cranks, torches, and they have LED setups for these. So if you want to get into that, tile edgings if you want to have it drop off, say into a chasm or whatnot. Mountain King delves. You've got all sorts of nifty extras. You can set up towers. You've got statues and carts for mines. Expansion sets include boulder traps and that sort of things, floor traps, castle starters. You've got all sorts. I mean, the number of dungeons you could build with these things are insanely, just so many. Outdoor terrain, we'll take a quick look at that. LED torch is so fancy. That's right, Sarah. Thanks for popping in today. Look at some of the outdoor terrain. You've got different levels for hills and whatnot. Ways to print rivers. Of course, you got to paint this stuff. Trees. Expansions on mountains. Monolith statues. Sarah had some of this stuff. She passed some stuff on to me that I think, who was it? Your cousin 3D printed it? I forget what you told me. Let's see. We'll pop on the sci-fi set and take a look at that. Got some ships, spaceships, starships, tail edges, and some of those things work in both. Of course, the Dragon Bite clips are how these are held together. Let's take a good look at that. Those are pretty simple and keep things from shifting around on the table. Let's just look in that general category. Hey, Rick. Sister's friend's brother. Sister's friend's brother printed up those pieces. Well, I appreciate them. I've painted some more of them and have them in the queue. There's so much. You can imagine I've had basically a year trapped at home for the most part and only had time to paint some of those. There's just so much to do for gaming, writing, and all the rest, preparing for games. There's the GM screen of Doom, which you can print out and set up. I'll take a quicker or a deeper look at that. Thanks for popping in, Rick. Good to see you there, buddy. Rick was telling me the other day that some of his notifications from Twitch come about an hour and 15 minutes after the show actually starts. Preach. Sarah's commiserates with me on how gaming occupies so much of our time, and the more you get into it, the it seems to exponentially increase how much time it grabs from you. So look at this cool screen, right? Got dice rollers, one that goes in and one that goes out. You just turn them around, right? Then you've got some place to store pens and pencils and extra dice. You can put miniatures up along the interior walls if you wanted to. Have the dice pop down. All right, so some of the walls, they have places where you can put up initiative trackers, slip a little secret, have a little secret place for special things, clips and whatnot. But, little shelves for miniatures and whatnot too. So it depends, because it's modular, so you can print it up any number of different ways. There's a whole video on that, so go check that out too if you want to on his YouTube channel. We'll take a quick look at the village before we do have a look at his personal setting. Well, first we'll look here. We've got all of these different buildings. Look all the details where they got the flip up shutters and move out shutters and the interior furnishings. You've got stalls for a market. You've got ruined village pieces if you want to have some of it torn down, or create an entire ruined village for people to stumble upon. The cemetery, the windmill, blacksmith shop, taverns, village wall items just to put out in the streets between the houses so it doesn't just look like a bunch of houses laid out in a grid. You've got to have street lamps and that sort of thing in and around the place. Here, let's have a look in there and see what else is in village items too. There you go, little fences, a bell, some tops of a well, or posts to tie off your horses when you're visiting the town. Small low wall. You've got a place in archery target. Village items 2. Let's see, where are we? Village items. There's a well. I knew there was a well. Let's have a look at some of the other ones there. Cart, ladder, stocks, outhouse, guillotine, firewood, water trough, chimney. You can put those on any of the buildings. Rooftop fire, sundial, basement access, stairs wood, stairs stone, and of course the instruction guide. So there you go. You've got it all going on. You can print up some of these flames, and when your PCs go nutso and start typing or start fires all over the village, you can just drop those on top of the houses. So Vallis Mortis, this section, is a lot of stuff devoted to Tom's personal setting, what he runs his games in. And it includes a shrine to Orcus, a Death Walker, campsite's pretty cool. We'll have a look at that. Nice, useful. Print up a bunch of these tents, logs, stumps, all of these sorts of things. That also can be used with an LED. You've got these bed rolls that you spread out all over the place. Two different kinds of tents, one with a fur on top of it for colder weather, I suppose, right? But the definite idea there is that you can print up, however many of each individual thing as you want. So if you need more bedrolls, you just print bedrolls. You don't have to print the entire set each time you need one little thing. So if you need more street lamps because you have a wider town or a brighter town, this is pretty neat. This Death Walker is basically a battering ram, right? A war machine, plenty of room on top for skeletons to be climbing around. See, those are skeleton miniatures. Some of Tom's things. So 28 millimeters. This Deathwalker is pretty huge. Pretty amazing. It's kind of a steampunky sort of thing, right? Very neat. But let's not forget about some of his other stuff. He's got his 3D printed games, World War Tesla and Sky Captains of Mars. So be sure to check those out when you get a chance. There's all sorts of models created to be part of that as well. And we'll have a quick look at Sky Captains of Mars as well. There you go. Beautiful artwork for these things too. Look kind of familiar. They want to be sure to give a nod to the classics, Edgar Rice Burroughs, right? Paper Terrain. I collect a lot of stuff from him, but I love things like Ravenfell, which is just a classic town. And these are the paper models. You get the core set, and you get any number of buildings and ways to build multiple styles of them. Then you've got some specifics like mills, sewers, docks, expansions for a few extra kinds of buildings, some that can be on a river or along the shore. So those are all neat. And that's just one town. This fantasy 3D paper terrain, you've got a castle, accessories, you got Dragonshire, which is the paper version of Dragonshire, easy dungeons, easy terrain. Those are more classic. Maybe people that don't like building the 3D stuff as much as they enjoy just the regular tiles for dungeons might enjoy this more. And get yourself the deluxe edition there, right? Or just pick up the starter sets, Easy Dungeons. There's a neat little hobbit hillside dwelling, they call it. Let's have a look in this deluxe edition here. That might be one of the more interesting, especially at 50% off right now, right? You've just got a list of all sorts of things added in. The well, the crates, the barrels, the walls and doors, of course, traps like that, different fancy ways of setting up your dungeon, secret doors are cool. A rack for a weapons rack for a guard room, for instance. Oh, look at the eyes on that. There's a trapper coming up from the floor and gobbling up someone. Different sizes and styles of pillars, rubble, stairways down, pits. This trap, the floor comes up and slides you down into a pit. That's pretty nifty. There's the eyeballs catching this guy unawares. Trouble. And you can see how it all modularly gets built piece by piece all together. Pretty neat. Paper terrain, fantasy. So that's easy dungeons. So let's have a look at Let's have a look at Dragonshire as well. Again, more buildings of all different kinds. Watermill, there's a bridge area, city ruins, armory, fold flat number one. So these buildings, the ones in this fold flat, were an experiment that he had tried to create buildings that you could just kind of collapse and keep in a flat folder and then pop them out when you want to put the for quick storage for flat storage. That was a pretty neat idea. Difficult to do. I don't think it ever really panned out for him. 2D fantasy tiles were the original. You've got Copper Dragon and Easy Tiles. Let's look at Easy Tiles first. These are a little easier for most people to use. Dungeons, Medieval Ship was pretty neat. So we'll just check the dungeons real quick. And they're all just two-dimensional. And they come with, as you can see as this flashes through, a whole bunch of different layers in the PDF. So you can add blood spatter, grates, pits, whatever you want to add into these various tiles. You can do it individually before you print them out. And it lets you do it that way. Copper Dragon as well. This one is one of the earliest sets. Still holds up to this day. Dungeon Perils, Basic Dungeon 1. Here you go. Drop a couple of bucks on this. $3.99. You'll get all sorts of hallways and rooms and different levels of things purchased. This will take you over. Oops, still got a link to drive through. So you'll want to, maybe it forwards anyway. Let's have a look. Yeah, that might be problematic. You know, we're just going to go to drive through. It's a little easier. And when we go over there, we'll see all of his stuff together. And it's all divvied up in these different sections. You got all the Dragon Lock stuff up top. But if you want to go back into the archives, Copper Dragon there, for instance, that'll get you to, and look at that, $3.99 down to $2. Boom. Copper Dragon basic dungeon sets. So for $2, you pick that up. Basic Dungeons 3, Basic Dungeons 2. So if you get 2, 4, 6, maybe pick up the Caverns as well. You could spend $10 and get a ton of dungeon tile printing options. And you know, most of this stuff, obviously, if you're going to put blood spatters and stuff. Hey, George, good to see you. Yeah, it's a great collection. Yep, I already have purchased this myself. So if you want to go here, here's a full-size preview, and pick these up, you can print off as much of this as you want. And you can do it in sections. I need a lot more straight hallways, for instance. So maybe I print more of those, or I print these pieces out in different sizes, right? Sample file. So there's the big one. Those ones we were looking at were examples of all the different files, and then they're all in the larger format so that you can print out more of this one or more of that one, depending on your needs. So there you go. All the Copper Dragon stuff. Looking back, there's just so much stuff here. Go spend some time. Look it over. See what you like. See what you want for yourself. See how it covers your needs, I think, is the main point. Anywho, it's a happy birthday to Tom Tullis is what we're here saying. We're wishing him well, and we're taking advantage of his sale that he has going, picking some stuff up, terrain, minis, whether we do two-dimensional, three-dimensional. He's got it covered, so we're good to go. Hey, look at the time. I want to say thanks to everybody for popping into the chat today. Appreciate it. I see you all in there. If you've come by to check out the show on Twitch, do me a favor and go ahead and follow on the Twitch channel, and feel free to chime in on the chat while you're here. If you are picking up, finding yourself in the middle of the day with a half hour in your hand on Monday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Central is when we live stream the show. Then we take the show and archive it over on YouTube. We upload that usually right after the show. It takes about a half hour to an hour maybe. And if you are catching up with it on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and click the old subscribe button and click the little bell to get updates for when you will be updated when we upload new videos there. Feel free to give a thumbs up to any videos you like and enjoy, and make sure you give us any comments, constructive criticisms, join in the conversation, whatever you want to do, we'd appreciate it. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.